And for the next half hour, I'll be reading from the Investigative Post on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. June 8th, 2026. Deadly housing, deadbeat landlord. Landlord Joseph Parlato has a history of housing code violations and failure to pay taxes and fees. A UB student last year died of injuries sustained in a fire at one of his properties, later deemed by inspectors not legal inhabitable space. Landlord Joseph Parlato owns at least 14 residential properties in Erie County, all but one in the city of Buffalo. He has failed to pay city and county taxes and user fees on nearly all of them, to the tune of $250,000. Through a real estate site called ubhousing.com, Parlato has rented unlicensed attic rooms in University Heights. Since 2020, Parlato's properties have been cited for more than 30 code violations. A year ago, a University of Buffalo student died as a result of a fire in one of those attic rooms, later deemed by city housing inspectors as not legal habitable space. Rameshwar Brahmbhat, a 25-year-old student from India, was about to earn a master's degree in data science. He died on May 3, 2025, just weeks before his graduation. According to records, city inspectors have cited Parlato for numerous violations at 16 Merrimack Street, including for renting a not habitable attic room and for operating a lodging house without a license. A trial is scheduled for Tuesday in housing court regarding the property. Last month, the county notified Parlato that it will foreclose on 3 of his tax-delinquent properties. Meanwhile, the city has failed to rein Parlato in, despite his owing $152,426 in property taxes and sewer bills as of June 5th. The city of Buffalo does not enforce the law. It's as simple as that, said Fred Brace, a former housing court liaison for the University District. Landlords are taking advantage of foreign students who want a roof over their head. As for the city's failure to collect money, it's a complete abdication of fiscal responsibility, Brace said. It's either stupidity or dereliction of duty. Brahmbhat's family told Investigative Post that in the aftermath of Rameshwar's death, Parlato avoided them and to this day has not returned a single one of their phone calls. There is no empathy from Parlato's side when we tried to reach out, said Kubi Brahmbhat, Rameshwar's sister. He knew that my brother was not just injured, he was dead. It appears that city officials failed to complete their investigation of the fire, per documents obtained by Investigative Post. According to records from the investigation, department officials concluded that the fire at 16 Merrimack claimed 0 victims. Parlato, 83, refused to comment, saying, "I'm not well. Don't call for a few days," before he hung up on an Investigative Post reporter. An incomplete investigation. According to fire department records, Rameshwar's housemates called 911 around 8:30 p.m. on the night of April 29, 2025. About 10 minutes later, firefighters arrived. The fire broke out in the attic while Rameshwar was in the shower. When Rameshwar opened the bathroom door, his body was scorched by the heat, according to Bramhat's recounting of her conversation with fire department officials and one of her brother's housemates. Flames and smoke engulfed the attic as Rameshvar called out for his housemates to call 911. She and the housemates said. The housemate remembers rushing upstairs to save Rameshwar, even though they couldn't see through the smoke, and wrapping his body with towels. An ambulance arrived shortly thereafter and took Rameshwar to Erie County Medical Center. The housemates grabbed their passports, permanent resident cards, and whatever they could fit in their suitcases. For a moment, two housemates, including the one that Investigative Post spoke to on condition of anonymity, stayed behind with the fire and police department to answer questions. According to Rameshwar's former housemate, fire officials did not provide any further details from their investigation, only saying it was an accident. Department records obtained through a Freedom of Information law request indicate that there were $75,000 in damages. Otherwise, the fire department's investigation report is mostly blank, with no case summary or further details. The report indicates there were no victims. Bramhat described her brother as an awfully sarcastic young man who loved politics, horror films, and cricket. He was over 6 feet tall, which made him a peacemaker of sorts, his sister said. If two of his friends were fighting, you could see him putting himself between and separating them, and talking some sense into people, Bramhat said. We used to just grab a lot of snacks, and we did movie marathons back to back. Rameshwar moved to the United States to study at UB in August 2023. About a year into his studies, Rameshwar moved in with a group of friends at 16 Merrimack, a 3-story house off of Main Street and blocks from South Campus. Each housemate paid $500 a month for their room. No response from Parlato. Bramhat said that the family met with fire officials on May 9th, but was told by officials that the property was likely not in violation. The attic, the family was told, had 2 exits. However, city inspectors had just cited 16 Merrimack on May 1st, 2 days after the fire, for a dozen housing violations, including renting out the attic room. Upon inspection after a fire, the 3rd floor has an illegal sleeping unit that must be removed, inspectors wrote. Meanwhile, Parlato was missing in action when the family reached out, Bramhat said. He never once in an entire week picked up the phone, she told Investigative Post. My parents were really in a bad emotional state at the time. It was very emotionally exhausting for us to constantly try and reach him. So we gave up on that, honestly. Instead, the family focused on settling the legalities of Rameshwar's death, obtaining a death certificate and his degree, meeting with administrators at UB, organizing a funeral, and bringing his ashes home. We had to figure everything out in a different country. We had to do a different kind of funeral, which we knew nothing about, Bramhat said. Before the family returned to India, they paid one final visit to 16 Merrimack on May 12th. They knew the house was in bad shape, but it didn't matter. Late that morning, with all options exhausted, the Bramhatts called the police to see if they could be let into the house. Officers who arrived on the scene told Bramhatts that it wouldn't be possible. My parents still wanted whatever was left in that room, she said. All we wanted was some stuff. We had faith that what they were saying was true, that we did not have anything to worry about in terms of illegal construction. Parlato's properties. In addition to the code violations at 16 Merrimack, records show that Parlato has active violations for renting out an unlicensed attic apartment next door at 18 Merrimack and 53 Eaglewood Avenue, and refused entry to inspectors shortly after the date of the fire last May. Parlato's problems extend beyond code violations. As of June 5th, public records show he owes $152,426 in city taxes and sewer bills, $77,844 in county taxes, $18,013 in city garbage fees. According to records, Parlato owns at least 13 properties in the city of Buffalo. 5 of them are located in Elmwood Village and Allentown. The rest are located on the west side in University Heights. One residential property is located in the town of Aurora. A county spokesperson confirmed that Parlato has been sent foreclosure notices for delinquent tax liens on 3 properties: 32 Barker Street in Elmwood Village, 3214 Main Street in University Heights, and 2029 Boys Road in the town of Aurora. Parlato's property manager, James Andalora, told an Investigative Post reporter that the incident at 16 Merrimack and Parlato's debts were none of your business. Permits and Inspections Commissioner Louis Petrucci declined to comment, saying that the fire occurred before his tenure. On Tuesday, Parlato will face Judge Dabney in Housing Court for violations related to 16 Merrimack. City inspectors have cited Andalora for failing to obtain a property manager's license. He described the fatal fire as a horrible moment, but he said neither he nor Parlato bear responsibility for Rameshwar's death. Parlato Pedaloro also denied any wrongdoing and renting the attic room, despite city inspectors issuing violations. Andaloro said neither he nor Parlato have an obligation to communicate with Rameshwar's family. The owner didn't have a contract with the family, he did with Rameshwar, Andalora said. I don't know anybody anything. Bramhat said the grief of losing her brother has been hard to put into words. Losing a sibling is not something a lot of people pay attention to, she said. It's kind of like losing a bit of your past and your future. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Investigative Post on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. June 2nd, 2026. Driver of abandoned Tesla is an ex-cop. Tom George, a former police officer and elected official, is charged abandoning a car on Niagara Square 2 weeks ago. In the vehicle, police found a loaded gun belonging to D.J. Granville, the former Erie County narcotics chief. The driver charged with abandoning a Tesla in which police found a loaded gun belonging to the Erie County Sheriff's scandal-plagued former narcotics chief is himself a former cop. The driver, Thomas George, was a Town of Evans police officer for 23 years. A Republican, he also served one 4-year term on the town board from 2020 to 2023, including 9 months as acting town supervisor. His current job is Chief Operating Officer for Buffalo Biodiesel, the company that employs Granville as a security contractor. George, 60, on May 22nd, was charged with 4 traffic violations, according to documents obtained by Investigative Post through a Freedom of Information request, including leaving the scene of an accident. Police sources told Investigative Post that surveillance camera video captured George exiting a restaurant on Chippewa on the evening of May 19th and driving away in a gray 2022 Tesla sedan registered to Buffalo Biodiesel. The car was assigned to D.J. Granville, the former chief of narcotics for the Erie County Sheriff's Office, who retired in April and has since been working as a security contractor for the company, according to his attorney, Terry Connors. After driving away from the restaurant, George made an improper left turn from Chippewa Street onto Delaware Avenue, according to the charging documents, then failed to stay in his lane on Delaware. He rolled through the stop sign at Delaware and Niagara Square, according to the charge. Finally, he abandoned the vehicle in the street between City Hall and the Robert H. Jackson Federal Courthouse, according to Buffalo Police, who later that evening responded to a 911 call from a federal courts officer. The caller reported a white male wearing a dark blue jacket, light blue shirt, and tan pants exiting the car that had damage to the front driver's side, according to an incident report. The car was unlocked and still running when police arrived. Officers from the Accident Investigation Unit found Granville's loaded gun in the car's trunk, as well as his prescription medicine, a checkbook, a cell phone, and other belongings, including his sheriff-issued retirement badge. Police also found paperwork bearing the name of George's wife. George reached on his cell phone the day after police found and searched the vehicle, refused to comment, referred Investigative Post to a statement issued by his employer, and hung up. He did not answer a call this morning. Walking away from the car earned George the same charge to which Granville pleaded guilty last August, leaving the scene of an accident that caused property damage. Granville, in April 2024, plowed his county-owned pickup truck into 7 parked cars on Buffalo's west side. Investigative Post nearly a year later broke the story of the late-night spree, sparking intense media coverage and a series of investigations that ended in Granville pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges and paying $75,000 restitution for damage claims paid by the county. He also served a 30-day unpaid suspension and retired in April. Several Buffalo police officers who responded to the scene, including his sister-in-law, at the time a lieutenant, were disciplined for failure to follow procedures in responding to the incident, including failure to administer sobriety tests. The sister-in-law, Lucia Esquilin, was demoted to detective sergeant in December. The day after George abandoned the Tesla in Niagara Square, Granville was charged at the B District Police Station with improper storage of a firearm, a misdemeanor. Granville's gun, a Glock, had a full magazine and one bullet in the chamber, according to the police report, which indicated officers found it in a bag in the car's front trunk. The charges against George are all traffic violations. He is scheduled to appear at the Buffalo Traffic Violations Agency in City Hall on June 25th at 9:30 a.m. May 27th, 2026. Attorney General knocks Buffalo for cop misconduct. AG faults actions of Officer Ronald Ammerman, whose history includes citizen complaints and federal and state lawsuits. He's still on the force, pulling down more than $135,000 last year. The state attorney general has once again flagged a Buffalo police officer for substantial misconduct, including dishonesty and violations of constitutional rights. Officer Ronald Ammerman and his partner on March 2023 improperly detained a passenger in a car driven by a man with a DWI warrant in Albany, according to a report released earlier this month by the Attorney General. The officers then violated the driver's constitutional rights by thoroughly searching the vehicle without probable cause. 2 months earlier, Ammerman and his partner, Officer Jake Geriano, threatened to tase a man in a corner store, then grabbed and tackled him, all before telling the man why, that they suspected him of driving a stolen car. He was not. According to the Attorney General, Ammerman then failed to report the use of force and lied about the encounter in sworn documents, charging the man with obstruction of government administration. Ammerman is named in several pending federal civil rights lawsuits. There's another lawsuit working its way through state court. He was also named a party in a police misconduct lawsuit that cost city taxpayers over $1 million to settle. In July 2024, he shot and killed a man trying to flee a traffic stop with a 6-year-old child in the car. Still, a special branch of the Attorney General's office that investigates cops repeatedly accused of misconduct determined the 10-year veteran had not engaged in a pattern or practice of misconduct, use of excessive force, or acts of dishonesty. All the same, the AG investigators raised some red flags. They faulted Ammerman for an unjustified search and detention in contravention of federal and state law, as well as threatening to arrest a person he knew he was not going to arrest, and writing a sworn complaint that contradicted body-worn camera and other surveillance camera videos. Those conclusions are contained in a May 7th letter from the Attorney General's Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Office earlier to the city's new police commissioner, Erica Shields. The report recommended Ammerman, as well as his supervisors and the department's Internal Affairs Division, which largely shrugged off the acts to which the AG investigators objected, be retrained on the Fourth Amendment and BPD policy as outlined above. The Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Post was created in 2020 to review the conduct of law enforcement officers frequently accused of misconduct. All law enforcement agencies in the state are required to alert the office to any officer who accumulates 5 or more complaints within a 2-year period. The complaints must describe district incidents of alleged misconduct. Multiple complaints about a single incident don't count. The string of misconduct complaints that led to the officer's inquiry into Ammerman ran from June 2022 to July 2024. His is the 18th report of office the office has released on Buffalo cops. 6 of those reports found patterns of misconduct. 5 found no pattern. 3 were administrative closures, meaning the office called off the investigation because the officer in the spotlight quit or was fired. In the remaining 4, including Ammerman's, the Attorney General's investigation found no pattern of misconduct, but with issues noted. The Buffalo Police Department did not respond to requests for comment. Ammerman's union, the Buffalo Police Benevolent Association, declined to comment and said Ammerman was not permitted by the department to talk to the media. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Investigative Post. We read from the Investigative Post on Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Your reader has been Janice. Thank you for listening.
Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private, not-for-profit organization. Radio Reading volunteers broadcast daily readings of newspapers, magazines, and books to area blind and handicapped persons who are provided reading radios. We broadcast on the subcarrier signal of WNED-FM Radio Buffalo, and that's provided without charge by the Western New York Public Broadcasting Association. Our phone number here is area code 716-821-5555. Our agency website is nfradioreading.org. I might have mentioned that already. Our phone number here is area code 716-821-5555. As always, though, please stay with us. Our Reading the Buffalo News will be coming up in just a moment.
The following program